Hey, what's up guys? This is week 20, book 20, and this week's book is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferris. So I read this book actually back in week 17. I just put it off a bit as I was obviously still working in my previous role, and this book completely changed my mindset on what I wanted to do with my life, how I wanted to find meaning and find fulfillment. And so it led me down a path to eventually quit my job as a general manager of hotels, and now I own my own company and I'm working for myself. But what I took out of this book were a few lessons that really changed my mindset around things. There's plenty to get out of this book, but the three things I took out of it were, number one, focus on my strengths and not my weaknesses. Number two, apply the 80-20 rule to everything in life. And number three is around choices, and that less is always more. So yeah, let me dive into it and tell you a little bit about what each of those are and how you can then apply those to your own life. So for number one, focus on all my strengths and not my weaknesses. This is super important because a lot of us have that busy idiot title, where we're always busy doing stuff, we're always got all this work that we have to get done, yet so much of it we just shouldn't be doing ourselves. There's plenty of the stuff in our day-to-day that we aren't the best at. We should be outsourcing it, delegating it, or just plain not doing it anymore. And we are always so scared to do that because one, that might, give us that satisfaction that this is our job, this is what we should be doing, and it's that self-importance, I guess. It also is that how do we hand it over? Who can we delegate it to? Do we have the resources to delegate it? Do we have the resources to outsource it? Can I trust the person that I'm outsourcing it to? Can I trust that person in my team that I've delegated that task to? And so many of us as leaders in the business have to go through these decisions. And I guess the way that I was able to make those decisions was, what's the worst thing that could happen? When you delegate something to somebody else, what's the worst that can happen? Will the hotel burn down? Will we lose all our customers? What really is the worst option? A lot of things are repairable. I've had plenty of customers in my past that have completely had the worst experience possible in my hotel just because a number of factors or whatever has played into that. And through, my leadership and my team's ability to resolve matters, we'll be able to turn those customers completely around. There's this funny sort of saying, I guess, that we used in the hotels, was that sometimes the most loyal customers you have are ones that started off as a complaint guest. Because they had a complaint, you were able to empathize with them, find out a solution, solve it, and bring it back. So realistically, what's the worst thing that can happen if you pass it on to someone who maybe you can't trust, or you're not sure, you don't have the resources, or if you just don't do the task altogether? What's really going to happen? So that's my first thing, is for the rest of my life, if there's something that I'm not the best at, then I'm going to outsource it, delegate it. If I don't like doing it, if I just physically don't like it, I'm going to outsource it and I'm going to delegate it. And so much of it, I'm going to just try not to do whatsoever, because is it really needed? And then that leads on to the next one, is where applying the 80-20 principle to everything in life comes in handy, because 80% of all your output comes from 20% of all your input. And actually, when you really run the numbers on this, you'll find that it swings even worse than that. Back in the hotel game, probably 1% of my clients were about 70% of all my revenue. And so 99% of all the customers we focused on produced only 30% of our revenue. Imagine flipping that on its head, wiping out that 30% of revenue by saying to those 99% of customers, I'm just not going to take your business. How more efficient, how better structured could you turn your hotel to just focus on those 1% of customers that bring you majority of all your revenue, and really provide the best experience for those guests and have them at the forefront of your mind at all times? It would completely change your business. Unfortunately, in most businesses, that thought of throwing away 30% of revenue is just too much for people to bear. And I get it. I mean, I completely get it. One of my biggest things in my role was producing revenue, driving revenue, and to just say I'm going to throw it away seems so counterproductive. So it is a big leap of faith, and I guess now that I have my own business, I can do that. I can ensure that as I take on new pieces of business, if they are not the right fit for me, then I just won't take them. And I think that that lesson is a big one to learn. I think as you start out, it's a very good one to hold true, you know. If you're getting plenty of business and some of it is just taking up heaps of your time with very little return, then it's not the right type of business. And that's not the customer's fault, that's your fault. That's your fault for coming up with a pricing model where you are doing work for somebody that isn't producing the revenue that you want. So it's on you, not on your customer. So you need to go and fix that and find out that, you know, what it is that I'm offering, and is it going to produce the revenues that I want no matter who buys it? Which leads on to that next and final lesson that I took out of it, that choice, that less is more. And so as I develop pricing models and products and services for what I'm going to do now into the future, you know, I want to keep that as simple as possible, because I want every client who comes on board, and when we work out that we're a right fit for each other, so they are a good client for me and I'm a good person for them, then I just want it that this is the product I offer, this is the service. Are you okay with that? Does this fit into what you need as a business or an organization or as a person? And if it does, then we're a good fit, and that we should just leave it there. We don't need a whole list of different options, because if I have 100 different options to choose from, the buyer is going to become paralyzed. You know, it's that paradox of choice, phenomenon that we have in the world, where too many options end up making the customer not choose anything at all. And you see this a lot in restaurants. When I used to walk into restaurants as a general manager or F&B director, and the first thing people tell me is that, hey, you need to focus on the restaurant, it's not making any money, it's doing really poorly. The first thing I would do is look at the menu and count up how many options. Sometimes you got 60 to 80 options on this menu, which seems outrageous when you say that number out loud, but go look at so many menus of so many restaurants and you'll see how many different options there are. What I would do is try and cut that number down to 20 or 15. 15 would be perfect. And then I'll just restructure that so that, you know, the choices weren't actually 15, they were potentially 2 options. So in a more fine dining style restaurant, you'd have 2 and 3 courses. That was the option, 2 price points, 69 and 85 or something like that. And so customers just had to decide, are you having 2 or 3 courses? Once you've chosen that, you just choose your options to go with that. That choice is an easier choice because there's no price attached to the second choice. The only price was attached to the first choice, 2 or 3 courses. And so once you're able to do that, you're able to lift average checks through the roof. I mean, I've had restaurants I've walked in, changed the menu overnight, $12 increase per person. And I did that through taking choice away. Customers don't really want choice. I don't want choice. I want to be able to go into a place, do what they do best, buy what they buy, and enjoy the experience, you know, and that goes from products to services all through. So I guess for me, those 3 things, those 3 lessons were huge, you know. You want to start with what your strengths are, get rid of your weaknesses, which leads into the 80-20 principle, which only doing the 20% of things that produce the 80% of your output. And then through that, you're defining the products that you're going to sell, the products or services that you're going to focus on for your customers, and just be the best in the world at those things. And so with that framework, I think you're really able to zero in on what it is that you do, where you add value to the world, and be the best in the world at it. So those are my key takeaways from the 4-hour work week. So anyway, I'll be back next week. The next book that we're doing is 21 Questions for the 21st Century by Yuval Harari. So hope you enjoyed it all, guys. If you did, hit like, hit subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you next week for the next video. And catch you later. Cheers, guys.